So my journey into higher education started in 2007. During my senior year of high school, I tragically lost my grandmother, who passed away 2 months before my high school graduation. Didn't have anyone at home to really help support me with the college going process. And so I was fortunate to have resources that I leveraged outside of my home environment. I was a part of an after-school program in downtown Chicago called Gallery 37. During my senior year of high school, I developed a close relationship with a college financial aid advisor named Mauriell Amechi. And Amelia was very, very supportive of my goals to apply to nearly every single scholarship opportunity that I saw. What really opened up the doors to higher education for me was when I was awarded a state scholarship from the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services. This particular scholarship afforded me the opportunity to attend my state flagship university, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, on a full tuition scholarship. And what was really unique about my pathway to college was also that the same institution that I attended was also the same institution that had initially denied me admission. My high school counselor, Miss Anna Gonzalez, saw potential in me and encouraged me to go through the hidden admission process to appeal their decision. And I actually was very explicit and transparent about the challenges I was dealing with at home, with my grandmother being in the nursing home and me not really having much support to navigate the college enrollment process, but also how I was still persisting despite these adversities. And so 2 months after I was initially denied admission to the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, I received this orange envelope in the mail stating that I had been admitted. And 4 years later, I graduated in 2011, one of 3 students to graduate with highest distinction in the communications program. I graduated with my Bachelor's of Arts in Communication in 2011 and went on to enroll into graduate school at The Ohio State University, where I pursued my Master's in Higher Education and Student Affairs. After finishing my Master's, I went on to finish my PhD at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in 2017. And at the age of 29, I became a college professor. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the child welfare system, I want to start by defining foster care. Foster care is defined as 24-hour substitute care for children taken away from their parents or guardians and for whom the state agency has placement and care responsibility. This includes family foster homes, group homes, emergency shelters, child care facilities, among others. Drug abuse and neglect are among the primary factors that contribute to foster care placement. Child welfare agencies across the country are doing heroic work, but they simply cannot find enough family foster homes to keep up with the growing demand. One of the consequences of this shortage is that older age foster youth are less likely to find a permanent home before aging out of care. This is significant because a growing body of research indicates that housing mobility negatively affects college students' experiences and outcomes. Nationally, over 440,000 children are in the foster care system on any given day. In the state of Virginia alone, over 4,000 youth are separated from their families and endure the devastating effects. On average, these young people spend at least 20 months in the foster care system before finding a permanent placement. As you may imagine, the national foster care population is very diverse. However, a closer look at racial demographics points to disproportionality. As this chart shows, African American children are represented in foster care 1.8 times their rate in the general population. Similarly, American Indian or Alaskan Native youth are represented 2.5 times their rate in the general population. For example, the Midwest Foster Care Alumni Study tracked over 700 transition-age foster youth in the states of Illinois, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Findings from the first wave of data are alarming. 80% of respondents had changed schools at least once due to foster care placement. Nearly 50% were placed in special education, and over a third were forced to repeat a grade. When considering the challenges faced by foster youth, we have to acknowledge that they are a highly mobile population. The consequences for these children, however, is that such disruptions impede their access to a high-quality K-12 education. In Whose Culture Has Capital, Yoso argues that a traditional view of cultural capital sees some communities as culturally wealthy while others are seen as culturally poor. Moreover, she asserts that cultural capital is not exclusive to individuals in the upper and middle classes, but rather an accumulation of specific forms of knowledge, skills, and abilities that are valued by privileged groups in our society. Yoso proposes that communities of color nurture cultural wealth through at least 6 distinct but interrelated forms of capital. There are 2 major questions that inspired this project from my research. How do high-achieving foster youth enrolled at selective 4-year universities describe the college-going process? And how do high-achieving foster youth nurture and leverage cultural wealth to enhance their access to selective 4-year universities? My study included 12 participants who self-identified as college-going foster youth between the ages of 18 and 27 and were all enrolled full-time at selective 4-year institutions. Individuals had achieved an average cumulative GPA of 3.5 or higher. I conducted semi-structured interviews with participants over a course of several months, and I was interested in understanding their experiences growing up in foster care and when did college become a goal for them. The overall findings suggest that high-achieving foster youth experienced adverse home environments that were under-resourced and generally unsupportive of their college goals. Despite being among the first in their families to pursue college, participants in this study set high college aspirations and drew upon multiple forms of capital to actualize their goals. Respondents share several examples of how significant others served as sources of inspiration, guidance, emotional support, and stability during pivotal moments in the educational system. Perhaps this is best illustrated in the example of Angel. Angel entered foster care around the age of 8. Her mother suffered from bipolar disorder, and her father's declining health status rendered him unfit to parent.
At that point, I was placed with my nephew and his wife. That's who I was currently living with, and it was just a very emotionally and mentally abusive home. I was a good student, got good grades, but I was constantly getting in trouble for like I did my homework a week early, and so she got mad at me for doing my homework a week early. And so I just went to school crying, explaining everything that was going on at home, and so then my teacher called CPS. But my guardian, my niece-in-law, she was like, no, you're just gonna go to a city college, you could just do college online. It's like she pushed me to do well in school, but I felt it was like a competition thing with her because she was a stay-at-home mom and didn't do much. So I felt like she wanted me to exceed in school but didn't want me to go any higher than her. So she didn't really want me to go to college. So it was just these mixed messages. But I still wanted to go, and my teachers were like, you should, go and try to get away from home.
Despite the disadvantages within their home and school context, foster youth set high college aspirations and sought acceptance to selective universities. This was vividly illustrated in Angel's narrative. This study contextualizes the significant barriers high-achieving foster youth faced in the college-going process, including unsupportive home environments, college information gaps, and misperceptions about college affordability. This study demonstrates that the college admission process continues to privilege those who have family privilege. Despite this, findings illustrate how foster youth nurtured cultural wealth to overcome barriers as well as enhance college access. Overall, meaningful relationships developed outside of their foster home were most critical to their success. By working with foster youth and amplifying their voices, policymakers, child welfare advocates, and other supporters can help change the narrative about foster youth by closing the opportunity gap and improving their pathways to college. One way that I hope to do so on my campus is by designing a college outreach recruitment initiative targeted specifically to college-going foster youth.